A lot of the mass public likes to hate on consultants because they think they do nothing. But if that were true, would the industry really be worth over $1 trillion? While there's always room for debate, in this video, I'm going to be providing you an overview of the industry so you can make that judgment for yourself and also see if the industry is for you by first going over what consultants do, then the types of consulting firms, hierarchy and compensation, lifestyle plus hours, and lastly, the pros and cons. Before we get started, did you know that according to ChatGPT, anywhere between 60 to 80% of all consultants at McKinsey, Bain, and BCG have their MBAs? This means that if you're watching this video because someday you want to work in consulting, at some point you're probably going to have to get an MBA. And that's why I wanted to let you know about Target Test Prep or TTP, which I credit a lot for helping me get a 750 on the GMAT. TTP has been helping students crush the GMAT for 16 years and covers quant, verbal, and data insights for the GMAT focus with 52 rigorous chapters broken into 1,500 lessons, over 4,000 realistic GMAT problems, over 1,300 instructor-led videos, 1,200 digital flashcards for studying on the go, and live online support from GMAT focus experts. TTP is also the only company on GMAT Club with a perfect 5-star rating, and they also have the highest score improvement guarantee of 130 points. You're able to personalize your study plan and practice tests for whatever works best for you. And if you're interested, you can try out TTP for 5 days completely for free using my link in this video's description. And also be sure to use the code rareliquid15 to get 15% off. All right, with that said, let's go into what consultants actually do. Now, before we start talking business, I think it's first helpful to use an analogy. Imagine you're in a 10-year marriage that's having a lot of problems. You and your spouse know each other way more than anyone else in the world, but it could still be helpful going to a marriage counselor or a therapist who's trained to help and can provide guidance and an external perspective. This is not speaking from experience, by the way. Similarly, companies, aka struggling couples, turn to consultants, aka therapists, to help them with a variety of business problems, including strategy for things like market entry, business model transformation, and corporate strategy, operations for supply chain optimization, process improvement, and cost reduction, digital transformation for AI and automation, cloud migration and data analytics, M&A for due diligence, post-merger integration, and M&A strategy, and organizational consulting for org restructuring, change management, and talent strategy. Consultants provide specialized expertise since senior partners have decades of experience working on similar types of projects or in an industry. They also provide an objective perspective free from internal politics, and they're also cost effective since it can be more efficient and cheaper to use a consulting firm than building in-house, and also it allows employees to focus on their current responsibilities. At the more junior level, day-to-day consulting work involves meeting with clients, digging deep into company data and financials in Excel, gathering information through surveys, calls, or focus groups, and creating presentations. But if you want a super deep dive into what consultants really do, then you can check out this video with a McKinsey consultant. The last point I want to make is that a lot of those outside of consulting are unaware that the ultimate recommendations consultants give their clients should never or are never a surprise. Consultants are constantly interfacing and meeting with their clients throughout the entire project and also providing periodic check-ins. And so by the end, the client should already have a good idea and sense for what the guidance they're going to be receiving will be. Otherwise, honestly, the consulting firm has done something wrong. All right, let's next go into the different types of consulting firms. Consulting firms vary by scope and specialization, but generally speaking, Tier 1 includes more generalist and strategy-focused firms, with the holy grail firms being McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. These firms offer advisory to a broad range of issues across almost every industry that you can think of. Next in Tier 2 are less high-profile firms that are also strategy-focused, but are particularly strong in specific industries like Oliver Wyman, LEK, Kearney, and Roland Berger. Next, in Tier 3 are the ones that focus more on implementation rather than pure strategy, and these include Accenture and the Big Four accounting firms, Deloitte, PwC's, EY, and KPMG, which all have consulting arms. Lastly, in Tier 4 are niche firms that specialize in particular industries or specific types of projects, and these include firms like Bridgespan, Cornerstone, Nair Consulting, and Bates White, though some would definitely take these offers over the others in Tier 3, so it's not super cut and dry. Next up, let's talk about the lifestyle and the hours. Consultants used to primarily be known for jet setting in business class to client site, which allowed you to stay at nice hotels and rack up credit card points. But a lot has changed since COVID in that now there is a broad range of experiences. I asked my friends who worked at McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, and they say that many projects now don't involve travel at all, while many that do travel every 2 weeks on average, with some exceptions. And it really depends on the client, since at the end of the day, they need to travel for all the travel expenses. When you're not traveling, you're usually in your local office 3 to 4 days a week to work with your team. And if you are traveling, you'll be flying out early on Monday morning and coming back home on Thursday evenings, which usually means a slightly shorter workday. But regardless of travel, one thing that has remained consistent is that coming into the office on Fridays is for the most part optional, and can also mean a shorter workday that ends between 1 to 5 p.m. depending on how busy your project is. Especially if you're at a top firm, while you are traveling, you're able to expense meals to literally an unlimited amount or up to a certain budget at other firms. But while you're in office, you may not be able to expense meals depending on the firm's policies, which many consultants are unhappy about these days, since this has historically been a huge perk in consulting. Regarding hours, consultants generally work between 50 to 75 hours a week, meaning that busy days end around midnight, but you'll pretty much never work weekends, which is a stark difference in comparison to investment banking, which consulting is often compared against. What's also great about consulting is something called being on the beach, and this refers to the lull right after you finish a project and you're waiting to get staffed on the next one. This can last for up to a few weeks, during which you'll either be working on an internal initiative, or if you're super lucky, barely working on anything at all. But at the same time, you don't want to be on the beach too much because it can result in low utilization, which factors into your performance reviews. Next up, let's talk about hierarchy and compensation in consulting. Starting with the hierarchy, consulting firms use different titles, but there are generally 6 levels from business analyst to partner. The number of years you stay at each position also varies depending on performance, but as you can see in this chart, you usually get promoted every 2 to 3 years on average. One thing to note is that after the business analyst level, it's tough to actually get promoted to consultant, and so most either actually exit consulting or go get an MBA, and if they have good performance, the firm will pay for the MBA as long as you work at the firm after your MBA for 2 years. And actually, most of my friends from Wharton during my MBA were sponsored by their consulting firms. Let's next talk about compensation figures, which of course varies widely depending across levels and firms. So I'm just going to be focusing on what you can make right after undergrad and MBA at McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. Starting with your first year out of undergrad, you can expect a base salary of $115,000 to $120,000, a signing bonus of $5,000, and a performance bonus of $15,000 to $30,000. And this results in a total range of $135,000 to $155,000 in your first year out of college. Next, right after your MBA, you can expect a base of $190,000, a signing bonus of $30,000, and a performance bonus ranging from $40,000 to $60,000. So you can expect to make around $260,000 to $280,000 in your first year out of MBA, which is pretty good. But besides just the money, let's talk about the pros and cons of consulting so you can consider if the industry is right for you. Starting with the pros, the first is that you become a savvy business thinker. In consulting, you're often going to be working with top-level management teams to shape company strategies or work on hairy implementations, and so you're always going to be working on challenging business problems with top talent. The second pro involves broad exposure. Before you grow senior and specialize, junior consultants work on projects that involve a variety of industries, functions, and business models, unlike many corporate roles where you focus just on one area. This helps you develop a very versatile skill set and understand how businesses operate in various contexts, which is perfect when you're young and don't really know what you want to do with your life. Third is the relatively manageable lifestyle compared to your compensation. While consultants can definitely work long hours, especially if you work with PE and finance clients, you hardly ever work weekends and you have lulls in between projects. And nowadays, you don't really travel as much, while you also have excellent perks and work at firms that really care about their culture, unlike investment banks. Let's next move on to the cons. The first most common complaint amongst consultants is that there is a lack of hands-on execution. You may work for months on a project and slave over building your PowerPoints, but after the recommendation is given, you're pretty much done for the most part and you're never truly building anything tangible. Second is a lack of differentiation in the long run. While consulting does give you a broad skill set, it doesn't necessarily make you a specialist in anything. And so compared to industry professionals who spend years and years just developing their craft and deepening their expertise in a function, Consultants develop general problem-solving skills, but really lack deep operational experience and excellence. Last but not least is a constant feeling of instability. In consulting, you are constantly changing teams and projects, which can feel very unstable. Though, of course, this can be a pro if this is more something that aligns with your personality. And many consultants mitigate this issue by working with partners they enjoy working with on many successive projects in a row. Alright, so that concludes the video. Let me know if you want me to cover any other topics about consulting in the comments down below. And in the next screen, you're gonna see an interview that I did with a real consultant at McKinsey. And so feel free to check that video out if you're interested. As always, thank you so much for watching and hope to catch you in the next one.